Good evening, everyone. And a little bit later than my normal morning to mid-afternoon post. Had a crazy day today. I did go downstairs. Well, put this in context. If you watched yesterday's live, I found an Asian pear and was quite tickled. It literally gave me a wonderful day of gratitude, and I really enjoyed that Asian pear. So this morning I went downstairs looking for the Asian pears, and there were no more, but that was okay. I was like, where else can I find my Asian pear today? But it was a very interesting day. So just to tell you where I am, I'm in Denver in a hotel room. I had the ACLM conference, and I was supposed to see patients and interview some folks for the podcast. All of those canceled. And so I thought, wow, I'm going to have a day to myself. And it was sunny and nice. And I was out walking and was having a great time. I got a phone call that we have a rental here, that we're renting our condo that used to live here in outside of Boulder, that there appeared to be a leak from our place to our neighbor's place below us. We're on the upstairs. I was like, okay, how interesting that I was had all these meetings. They canceled. I even switched my plane to fly out tomorrow so I could have these interviews, and ended up just going to have a day to myself. I was going to draw. I literally bring my drawing stuff. I love to draw and color and paint. Sometimes if you scroll through my Instagram, you'll see some of my amateur artistic endeavors. And anyway, so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, now what is going to be my Asian pear in this situation? Because I'm certain there's something here that I'm going to be thankful for in the end. And so far, no, I think this is going to cost me money, the situation. I mean, I got to see my neighbor and I got to see our tenants who are always lovely. But yeah, so I'm just thinking, sometimes there may not be something until I'll never know. Maybe there was I don't know, it saved me from a car accident or something. Who knows? And I'm just sitting here reflecting, always trying to think, what can I learn from this situation? But anyway, I did get a chance to drive 45 minutes to the location and back. So that did give me 90 minutes to listen to some podcast and to also some books on Audible, which is where this 1 + 1 equals question. Does 1 always equal, or excuse me, does 1 + 1 always equal 2? And someone asked me that same question earlier this week. And in my head, arithmetically, or with arithmetic, your basic mathematic principles, 1 + 1 equals 2. If they stay separate entities, right? You have a group now, but they're still separate. And, I have 3 kids, so just 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3. It's not 1 + 1 + 1 equals 1. But if you think about it, it's all in context, right? So this all gets back to the conversation of what's the relative meaning, what does this mean in the situation at hand? So if you have a wad of gum, you have one piece of gum that you're chewing in your mouth, and you add another piece of gum, now it becomes 1. So 2 pieces equal to a larger 1. If you have 2 businesses that merge, they become 1. If you have anything like that, it becomes greater than its, the sum of it is greater than its independent parts. And so I've just been sitting here thinking about that. And with the way I practice medicine, I think this was a good summary. So when you look about habits, right, when you look about all the things that we do that seem inconsequential or meaningless or minimal impact, they actually are just like the 1 + 1 equals more than 2. So every bite that I eat, every move that I make, I feel like I'm writing a song. If I could sing, I'd sing to you. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 over weeks, months, decades, multiple decades, that adds up, right? So, if you're walking 5,000 steps a day or 10,000 steps a day, and you're lifting weights and you're progressing, all of that adds up. And so That's really interesting when you think about it in the context of lifestyle medicine. So there's 6 principles here. I'll just run by you real quick. It's eating a primarily whole food plant-based diet, meaning you're eating healthy whole foods, trying to minimize any processed foods, exercise daily, minimally half an hour or more if you can, including resistance and aerobic. And I really like to emphasize resistance training. Even though I like to run, resistance training has some amazing benefits. Um, and then, of course, sleep. Sleep is so very important because even if you're doing everything else right in your diet and you're exercising, sleep can, decrease the effectiveness of those things on your overall health. So, sleep. I feel like if I can get those through 3 things done and dealt with in a relative decent fashion, you're doing consistently, you're getting good rest, you're going to bed at a good time, you're waking up at the same time every day of the week or trying to do your best there, eating, like I said, a whole food plant-based diet, and exercising your body, moving your body, plus looking at minimizing stress, right? How you're viewing the world, right? Our thoughts will shape our basically our experience in life. Like yesterday was a perfect example of this. Finding this Asian pear literally shaped my rest of my day. I was so happy and grateful about an Asian pear, and that Asian pear is still having an effect on me today. And so it's just a simple fruit. Amazing. But anyway, it's my thoughts, my ideas, my perspective on a situation. That's where the stress, right? I can decide to suffer, or I can decide not to suffer. Like today, there's a leak that the plumber's going to go deal with in our rental unit. I can decide to suffer with anxiety and stress and worry and think, oh gosh, how much is this going to cost me? Is insurance going to cover it? Or I can go, hey, it's not as bad as it looks. It could have been a really big leak. It could have come crushing in. It could have leaked, it could be so much worse. And so for me, the glass is half full on this, and that's how I'm going to see it. And I, I, yeah, it's just easier. I just don't want to waste the mental energy on anxiety and worry, because really it will not change the situation. Okay, got off on a tangent. So we talked about stress and then community, right? I think I spoke yesterday just how much being around people means to me. But the other thing about this is that I get to spend one more day in Denver, and I'm going to get to have dinner with my son again. That's pretty awesome because family and friends mean the most to me. So there's that. And it also forced me, I was very sweaty and not so pretty when I went out and saw the tents. It forced me to shower today and look more presentable and do this live for you, because y'all don't want to see me when I'm not like putting some effort into this feature here. And yeah. And then the other thing is, of course, alcohol and smoking. There's no benefit to any alcohol. You guys, it's your choice. I've never chosen to drink alcohol. I've seen it ruin lives and chose not to partake in that activity. It can increase blood pressure. It can increase risk for cancer. It's hard on the liver. It's a toxin. And of course, we all truly realize there's no benefit to that either. So the synergy of all those things being done consistently is really where we find that 1 + 1 is more than 2. And for me, the 3 most important to focus in on is the food, the sleep, and, exercise. And I was listening to this book. It's called Mindful by Ellen Langer. And it was written many years ago, but then she had a redo, rewriting, and a new release. I'm going to try and get her on the podcast. I'm really digging the health psychology stuff. And she also spoke about this mind-body connection. And where I'm at in the Audible book is about spontaneous remission of cancers and the placebo effects. And we certainly all have seen things happen that we just can't quite explain. But again, I think it goes back to, we can't think of our mind and our body as separate entities. So there was one study she spoke about that people were put, I think it's called Counterclockwise. I think she actually wrote a book about it. They took people who were elderly gentlemen, and they this was back in 1979, I think, and they took them back 20 years and put them in an environment back in like in the 1950s. So they were younger men, were more able-bodied. So the men, she said that when they actually came to their office, they literally loaded them up in a van, played these, 50s music, getting them ready, and they were like could hardly move. Their loved ones were taking care of them. They were acting quote unquote their age. They put them in this environment where they and told them to speak as if they were back in the 1950s. And here was all this luggage, and these gentlemen could hardly walk. And so what they did was she's like, well, I'm not going to move your luggage. You're 20 years younger. Do what you would have done back in the 1950s. You guys haul your luggage for yourself. And she goes, I don't care if you have to unpack it and move one shirt at a time. You guys are going to do it. Lo and behold, they all moved their own luggage. Whereas before, some of them were using canes to walk. By the end of the experiment, I don't recall how long it was. I need to look that up. The men who were walking with canes weren't walking with canes. They had objective measurements of like how they looked. They said they even looked younger. They had more grip strength. They had all these things occurring, like blood pressure's improving, all this stuff. So really, literally, age is a mindset. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to be 18 again. If you're thinking, hey, I'm 18, that would be great. But it's certainly, you could try. So I'm running this half marathon next weekend, a week from Sunday. My goal before I'm 54 next year is to try to run a half marathon in under 2 hours. Now, I had no expectations to do that at this time. It would be a miracle. But I'm just going to start thinking to myself that I've already done it, that I can see myself actually running a half marathon on Sunday for less than 2 hours. I'll let you know how it goes. So there was some other stuff working with athletes and having them actually imagine that they were doing what they were like. For example, there was one that with volleyball players, and they said, imagine that you could fly. And then they actually looked at their jumps. They could actually jump higher. So anyway, this comes back to, one thought doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live by that one thought. Think about it. So if we sit back and can imagine ourselves doing something else, like I can imagine I can do a pull-up. Maybe I can. I don't know. So I just wanted to share that with you. And you guys, please tell me if there is something you'd like me to talk about. I love to share and teach, certainly about hypertension and what to eat. And I feel like that's fairly straightforward, but I'm happy to answer you those questions. But the whole behavior thing is just fascinating to me. But I would love to hear your thoughts on how your thoughts. Tell me what you think about how your thoughts actually shape your current situation and also your future situation. Or maybe there was an experience in your past that thoughts really shaped your perspective and it surprised you. I would love to hear these stories. I just find them so utterly fascinating. And I think today was a really good example of me just thinking, I'm not going to let this day upset me. This might cost me thousands of dollars. It's going to be a sad day if that does. But at the end of the day, I don't know what this saved me from. I don't know what the end product's going to be. I don't know. If all I know is I get to spend one more day and have dinner with my son, fantastic. Or maybe the universe was like, hey, Lori, we're going to clear this path for you for these meetings so you're available to go deal with this situation and not be stressed about it. So there's that. So anyway, guys, sorry it's late, but it was quite an interesting day. And I was going to draw today. Maybe I'll draw later and share with you what I like to draw. So there's that. So I think 1 + 1, depending on the context, if you're becoming a group, yes, it's 2. But in many cases, 1 + 1 means it's much more powerful and much more wonderful. If we think of us more as a synergistic effect versus independent person effect, right? So there's that. Yep, had to grab my thoughts today and wanted to share with you guys. So, um, someone's saying if it's thousands of dollars if you worry or not. That's true. Absolutely. And mindset is everything. Absolutely. This is good food for thought. So thanks for listening again. I'm on a plane tomorrow. I'll try to jump on and maybe share with you guys what I can find eating here at the Denver airport for breakfast early in the morning. We'll see how that rolls out. But yeah, I'll let you know what happens tomorrow. But thanks again for spending some time with me. A little bit more rambling today, but I didn't quite find an Asian pear, but the Asian pear still made me happy from yesterday. So maybe that's all I needed. All right, guys. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening and a great weekend. All right. Bye.